All right. And with that, we are recording episode 115 of the Blown Smoke podcast.
You're right,
is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'm Jake. You are.
I'm Eric.
And you are. Scooting up to the microphone.
Yeah. He's almost Joe.
Joe's here.
And you are.
Nick.
Now feel free to adjust the hell out of that just so it's like right in front of your face and nice and comfortable because I didn't set them up for any particular...
I'm still admiring the koozie and the sticker that he just gave us all.
So
this is badass.
It's awesome. So to explain what's going on here, our buddy Nick Cooper, who I've known for a little while because I work with your wife, she's awesome. We wanted to get him on the show. It didn't work out for a couple months. Now you're here.
Right.
So I guess the most awkward question, a little bit about yourself. What do you do? What's your story?
That's always a hard question. So yeah, my name's Nick Cooper, car enthusiast. I do a little bit of everything. It's so hard to categorize myself. Yeah, I work in the automotive industry for a undercar company. I'm not going to give away a name, but I install tire changers, balancers, alignment equipment, racks, and install those, train people how to use them, and repair them when they need repaired.
Cool. Now, that's kind of like, I think that's the professional side. What do you do for fun? Like, what's the story? Because you just handed us some bomb-ass stickers and koozies, which will get used.
Yes, they will.
So
the sticker's also going on my truck.
Oh, 100.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
The one that I got, that's going to get like a special place on the podcast table because nobody's ever brought us stickers, I don't think.
I don't think so either. That's a new thing.
Yeah. So whether you want to or not, whether you like try to dissociate yourself from the show after you hear it, you're going to be connected to the show forever.
Oh, it's permanent.
Forever enshrined in the podcast table. So yeah, I do what's called the Gambler 500. Some people know about it. Not a whole lot do. It's kind of gaining traction. It's pretty much all started off where you buy a vehicle for around $500. You can do whatever you want to it, and then you have to drive it 500 miles through random trails, public roads. You don't know.
I want to do that.
Yes.
Dude, it is.
Sign us up.
It is the funnest motorsport thing that I think that you can do because the number one rule is there are no rules.
That's awesome.
So it's organized, but not over the top.
So kind of in the spirit of what's the one that comes to mind? 24 Hours of Lemons.
Yeah.
That's
what I was thinking of too.
Is that like the spirit animal of the gambler?
In a sense. So with those cars, you're on a track, and you have to have a roll cage. You have to have safety tech. So these cars that look like crap, they can have like easily $5,000, $10,000 in them just to compete in that. Mm-hmm. So the gambler, it's literally all about taking this piece of crap vehicle that you found on Facebook and just going out and having fun with it.
That's awesome.
It's so much fun.
So now, do they have to be street legal? Do they have to be licensed?
Ish.
Do they have? I guess that would be a question.
So like street legal to the point where you know a guy who he'll pass it.
Yeah. Honestly, the biggest rule, and I would say this is really the only rule, is you need to have at least liability insurance on it because you are on public roads. Okay. So that's really all they care about.
So where is it, like point A to point B, where does it go to?
You don't know until the day of the event.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
So it's a checkpoint type deal?
Yes.
You get to a checkpoint and they say now you have so much time to get to the next checkpoint, or is it even timed?
Okay, so you arrive to the event. They give you a piece of paper that has nothing but latitude and longitudes on it. And it'll say like the beehive, and then it'll have latitude and longitude. And you're like, what the hell is the beehive? So you're inputting this into whatever software you want to use to navigate the event. And you put it in and you drive there.
This is like Survivor.
Dude, it's so hard to explain because it's so freaking cool. So you input the latitude and longitude, and you get to where it says you're supposed to be, and you're looking around, you're like, okay, beehive. And then you look on the side of this mountain, and it's carved out like a beehive. And so you take your phone, and you take a picture of your team in front of the car, in front of this monument, and then you upload it to Instagram. And that's how they use the times, because it timestamps it. Even if
That's
you
legit.
even if you don't have service, like it'll still record the time you took that photo.
Right.
So then you hit as many of these checkpoints as you possibly can on day one and hope that the car makes it through it. And then at the end of day one, they tally up everyone's time, how many of the checkpoints they were able to get to. You party all night. You wake up the next day. You do the same thing with a different check sheet.
That's legit.
And at the end of the event, they figure out who had the fastest time. And then they take a bowling ball and they bust out the back glass of the car. Because they don't want people speeding, because it's an adventure, not a race. So whoever comes in the fifth fastest is who gets first place. And you get nothing for first place.
Wow, that is awesome.
That's really clever. Because that was my next question, you know, because you hear with like, it's not sort of really like the gumball with Bull Run where they're like,
Right.
It's not a race.
Wink.
Wink, wink,
Wink,
wink.
wink.
No, so the biggest thing about it is because we're doing stuff that is technically not street legal. Like a lot of the cars we're driving wouldn't pass safety inspection. But when we go into these towns, because there's these events all over, I mean, literally all over. The main one is in Oregon. But the one I mainly do is in Ozark, Arkansas. Called Gambling the Ozarks. It's awesome.
That's pretty out there. I like that.
Yeah, dude. Oh man, it's so cool. But the biggest thing that we try to do is make a difference in the community. So a lot of these checkpoints are going to be little mom and pop, you know, coffee shops, you know, burger joints, all this stuff. And so you get like a couple hundred people out there, and you're hitting up these tiny little places that don't get much traffic in these communities. And so you're generating revenue in the community. Plus, we also hand out awards for how much trash you can pick up off the road. So at the events at our home base, you have big dumpsters. And, you know, you get awarded based on how much trash you find out on the trails and you can throw away. So we're cleaning up the environment. We're supporting the local economy, and we're having a blast doing it.
This might be my favorite new event.
Dude,
Yeah.
it's
This
so
might
cool
be
because no one takes it seriously.
Yeah.
Because once you start involving, you know, a lot of money and stuff like that into something, then, you know, it kind of loses its luster. Because then it's all about who has the most money, who has the best equipment,
Right.
stuff like that.
The adventure part of it goes totally out the window.
Yeah, and you're just out there, you know, hanging out with all these like-minded people, and everyone's just having a blast.
You just sold me on this. We got to do this.
When is this?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm into
They're
it.
all
Is this
over,
the same
man.
time? I mean, the one that you do, is it the same time every year? Is it the same place?
It varies. It's the same place. It starts off at this canoe place called Turner Bend in Ozark, Arkansas. And you just get there on a Friday night, and it is the craziest party that you will ever go to. Like, I mean, just imagine partying with the people from Mad Max. That's what
That sounds awesome.
Dude.
yeah.
I saw a guy snorting Fireball mixed with salsa
Jesus.
out of the
Respect.
brim of a cowboy hat.
I've never had testicles that big.
That's a savage.
Dude, this guy...
That's awesome.
Dude, oh my gosh. This guy was from California, and I have no clue how he got there. Like, he just seemed
He probably
like...
doesn't either.
I bet he doesn't.
I bet he never made his way back either.
No, but like, you just see like all these interesting people. Like, there are people that would come down for this event from Ohio. They would fly in. They would get on Craigslist. They would find a vehicle for $500, and then they would go bash it for the weekend. At the end of the event, they would auction it off for charity, and then they would fly back to Ohio.
That is super cool.
So, okay, so question then, and I want you to explain your car, but let's say somebody's hearing about this and they've got $1,000 or whatever it would take in the bank account, and they're like, I'm doing this. Like, they're sold, because I'm sold on it.
Yeah.
Eric sold, Joey
Yep.
sold. What's your recommendation for your first gambler if you don't have a car starting from scratch?
Anything cheap, easy to get
Doesn't
parts
matter.
for.
So now,
Yeah.
Cool.
4-wheel drive doesn't necessarily matter.
So
Ground clearance doesn't necessarily matter. What's the mix of?
Or is it just one of those things where you're going to send it, so who cares?
exactly.
Yeah.
So the
Done.
like the name gambler comes in with so much like meaning. So you're gambling your life. You're gambling
It's a
Snort
car will
Fireball.
make it.
that a car will make it, and that's just it. Like, there's really no right or wrong answer for anything because there's no rules. The one thing that I enjoy the most is the cars that you won't think will make it, because that's what makes it a game.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
If everybody had a Jeep, then what's the point?
exactly.
Yeah.
And you can have, like, there's people that have, like, vehicles that cost more than $500. Well, there's no rules. So they developed a class called the cheater class, which is, I guess, technically what my Fiero, which we'll get to that probably eventually, would be in, because I have definitely more than $500 in this car. But the way I look at it is, if you go out there and you're sending it, it doesn't matter how much money you have in the car. Like, if someone says you won't go up that hill and you go up that hill, or at least attempt to, like,
You're still beating on it no matter what.
yeah,
So.
and that's the cool thing.
I don't even know where
I'm
to
ready
begin
for
with
it.
this. Like,
I'm ready
I'm so
I'm
into
ready
it.
to leave now and go.
Are there any okay? So are there any mods that are like highly recommended for the gambler? Is there any like must dos, like a top 5?
Probably tires are probably one of the best things you
Oil
can do. is get a good
change,
set of
like
tires.
fluids.
Maintenance, tires,
bring some kind of a kit with you to fix stuff?
yeah,
Fireball and
Toolkit.
salsa.
Yeah.
Fireball and
A lot
salsa.
of whiskey, I think. That would be a
Oh,
good
yes.
thing for me. I need to have
Yes.
a lot of whiskey with me.
Yes.
For all the
Yeah.
bumps, you're going to need some numbing. There
Yeah.
you go.
Like, honestly, a good GPS system that doesn't rely on cell phone service.
Okay.
So
A true satellite
Yeah,
GPS
yeah.
system.
Tom.
Yeah.
So I use a aviation GPS that it plugs into my iPad, and then it relies strictly on satellite instead of cell phone service. So
That's awesome.
Now, so let's get into the car that you use, because I'm interested. You said Fiero, and how long have you used the car? What are the mods you've done? What's broken on it? Give us the history of that, because this is the topic of the day for sure.
All right, so the first year I did it, it was me and my good friend James Crumwitty. At the time, so a little backstory. At the time, me and what is now my wife, we lived right next to a brewery. And so it was constantly me and my friends walking with a couple growlers down to the brewery, filling them up, sitting on the porch, smoking cigars, and just going through these growlers. And I forgot which one of us found out about this. And this was when it was still really fresh and didn't have a whole bunch of publicity. But he was like, dude, we have to do this. And so we got, a little bit tipsy. We were on Craigslist searching through. We found a 1996 Isuzu Rodeo.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this...
Please tell me you bought this thing drunk.
Oh, yes.
That's even better.
Let me rephrase that. We negotiated the deal drunk. We picked up the car sober, which we actually had to have it towed because, it was just so sketchy. So we got this vehicle the next day, and we were like, what do we do from here? So we honestly focused on all the wrong things. Like, we went to Pick and Pull because me and my buddy James, we'd both worked at Pick and Pull, so we knew everyone there, and they just hooked us up with parts. But we were like focusing on like, okay, we're gonna get this different bumper. Like, we swapped out the doors from electrical doors to manual doors.
Crank window.
Yeah,
Crank
yeah,
window
because
doors.
like in my mind, it's like, okay, I'm going to take everything out of this vehicle that isn't a necessity, because then I don't have to worry about it breaking.
Yeah.
And so
It makes sense.
yeah, I just like focused on all that stuff, and we spent so much money just to make this thing like
User friendly.
user friendly, but at the same time, none of it mattered. Like we did exhaust work with fence post, and we had a big stack that came out of the back of the car where I'd taken PBR beer cans and cut them in half, and then wrapped the pipe with it, and
Oh
then
my
put a
God.
tractor flap on it.
That's badass. This
Yeah.
sounds like Mudfest. Just
Yeah.
you get to take it 500
Oh man,
miles.
we took and we put a 4-inch PVC snorkel on it for the intake. Man, we put like AutoZone like shackles on the rear, and that was just miserable. It made it ride like crap.
Yeah.
I mean, I could go on for a long time about this. But, yeah, so we had an Isuzu rodeo. You can actually look it up on YouTube. I think there's a video of it under Team Whistling and Dixie YouTube channel. And then after that, we destroyed that car after like 100 miles in on our first Gambler. And
By destroyed, you mean like...
It was like running on like 2 or 3 cylinders.
Oh, wow.
And
I was picturing like a window in the block or something.
No. Which you can find a video about us trying to blow the car up after the event.
Oh, wow.
And it was just shooting flames out of the exhaust. Like it was crazy. It wouldn't blow.
That's wild.
So that we ended up. I was looking for a house up here in Troy, Missouri, where I live, and I was driving around this subdivision where there was a house we were wanting to look at, and I saw this old, haggard Pontiac Fiero sitting in this dude's driveway with flat tires, and it looked like it hadn't moved in forever. And I told Taylor, my wife, that I needed to go up to the door and see what this dude wanted for this car because I had to have it for a Gambler. And at the time, we were living in my parents' basement. We didn't have a place for another car. And so I just constantly was driving around looking at this car. And then a couple months later, after we had gotten a house, this kid I'm friends with on Facebook posted up that car for sale. Ooh. And I was like, wait, what? And it was like $500.
Winning.
And yeah, and so it was his dad's car from like back in the 80s, and I ended up getting the car for like $300. And it had so much stuff wrong with it. Mm-hmm. It had the 2.5 Iron Duke motor that GM used for everything.
Yep.
With a Muncie 4-speed manual transmission.
Oh
There
my
you
God.
go.
And
yeah,
so
brother.
the first thing that I did was like, okay, that's got to go. I need more power. So we got it to the garage, and I start tearing into this thing. And I knew very little about Fieros other than people always put the 3800 GM supercharged motor on them.
Does that drop into that?
Ish.
Yeah. Drop
Yeah,
in being
it's-
relative?
Yeah. And so I started looking on forums, Facebook, like what was the cheapest, easiest swap to do that was going to get me around the 200 horsepower mark. And so it was what's called an LA1 motor, which is a 3400 Pontiac Grand Dam motor.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
They
I
put
know
in
that.
everything. So I'm like, right on. Like I can find parts for that all over. I found a 04 Pontiac Grand Dam that had a blown transmission. The motor still ran. Everything was perfect. I could hear it run. He wanted like $190 for the car. So I got that, put it in my brand new garage. Again, my wife's so awesome. And we tore the motor out, all the wiring harness, and then we were like, okay, what do we got to do to like put this into this Fiero? And so we just started cutting everything that didn't need to be there, and it mated to the 4-speed transmission.
Wow.
With using like a unbalanced flywheel because I forgot why the reason was, but we found like a forum that talked about it. So we got all the parts off of Rock Auto, got this thing in there. Then it came time to try to figure out how to make it run. Because
That was my next question was, how are you going to tell that engine that it's in a...
do that.
And if you remember GM back in like 04 around that time, they were getting super crazy with security. So you had like your ohms, like resistant type keys and like all these different VATs, and it was just a nightmare. So I had previously been really into the Chevy Cruzes, and so I already had HP tuners because I played around with tuning on the old Cruze there.
See, it's not crazy.
Remember that I told you a guy texted me defending you?
Yeah,
on
dude, high
Yes.
five.
Yes. So yeah, that's a crazy story. But so we ended
Not
up
a fast one.
Aha! Zing.
Sorry.
But
No, you're not. Don't lie.
we ended up getting it running with the help of Jerry Kinney out of Florida with Bad News Racing Performance.
Oh, wow.
And he remote tuned in. We got it going. And then it was just awesome. So we completely stripped everything out, like I said, that didn't have to do with making it run. And so For the actual gauge cluster and everything like that, I had like a little $20 OBD2 scanner, Bluetooth, that I synced with my tablet. And so that's what we relied on for gauges. And
That's awesome.
yeah, dude,
That's the most legit thing ever.
Yeah.
That is.
We
that
need
is
to hang out
sketchy.
more.
it was so cool. So we did our first event with it. I'd put Jeep wheels and tires on it. So I did 2-inch wheel spacers that were also lug adapters because the Fiero had 5 on 100 lug pattern, which isn't common. So I said, okay, if we're out in the trails, I want something that pretty much any car is going to have. So we went to 5 on 4.5. Okay. So put Jeep wheels on it, tires, and we took it down there and we sent it. Like we just beat the hell out of this car. And there was a mud pit, and people were like, "You won't go through that." And I'm like, "Oh, hold my beer." So, right. So I hit that mud pit and just got the car high centered. The mud and water and everything got in the bell housing, so it completely smoked the clutch.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so that was the demise of that first Gambler. So next year, we put a 4-puck clutch in it, or 6-puck. I can't remember what it was. Just cheap eBay clutch.
What brand is it? Did you buy it from like O'Reilly's or something?
No, it was a spec clutch.
Oh, I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
I mean,
Like a
just cheap.
Panda
cheap.
Express.
Yeah, cheap clutch.
Yeah.
But again, we're not trying to, go for like the best. So we put that in there, and it was just awesome. Like we upgraded to solid motor mounts, trans mounts, and just made this thing rigid. And then it was doing awesome. And then there was this huge hill that we were about to go up. My buddy Tyler had a Fox Body Mustang that he had lifted, and that's what he was running. So me and him were running tandem most of the events because, I mean, we were really quick. So he goes up this hill, and I'm getting ready to go up this hill, and I let out the clutch, and at the bottom of the hill, I snap a CV axle.
Seriously?
Yeah. And that was the end of that event.
That's annoying.
And
So how many years have you been doing this? You keep talking about different events.
I've done it 3 years.
Okay.
3
So
events.
now this is it literally is 500 miles.
Yes.
250 miles a day if you make it
Yes.
that far, right?
Yes.
Now, do you do it with tandem, meaning you and another person in the same car and another person in another? I mean, you with friends, you do this, or
Yeah.
you can do it with as many people as you want. If you had a Suburban, you could do 6
dude,
people.
there
I mean,
is-
I'm sure there's people that just go nuts.
Yes, and I'll give you guys so much content like after we're done recording, showing you pictures and videos. But there's
That's good because we're going to steal them to post the episodes.
Yeah,
So-
we're
Awesome.
gonna do it. We're
If
gonna
we have
do
your
it whether
permission,
you, whether
then that's
you,
it. Yeah, that's
whether we have
perfect.
your permission or not, we're going to. Yeah.
no. I got a buddy who has a Suburban, and I don't know all the specifications, but he put a diesel motor in it with 3 turbos and a huge stack coming out of the hood.
That
And
sounds like freedom.
He just, he's what I call a recovery vehicle because, I mean, he'll literally drive this thing across the U.S. He's done it with like his wife and kids, but
That's
he
wild.
hits all the events, and he's the guy that you want to pull your vehicle out when it breaks.
Yeah.
Like it.
Nice.
I mean, there's
So,
just so much.
so you're just based on what you're saying, you're a hell of a wrench. Like, I'm not sitting here thinking that you're claiming to be Chip Foose or anything like that. But where'd you learn to wrench? Because you're not old. You're younger than probably all of us. You're what, 26?
Yeah, 25 or 26. I can't ever remember.
You're good. We're all 28-ish, but barely not 30. So where'd you learn to wrench?
So, at a young age, like my parents have like home videos of me being like 3 or 4 years old and like asking for like screwdrivers and stuff. Like I never had a gaming console. Like my parents always told me like we can get you a go-kart or we can get you a PlayStation. And I was always about like anything with a motor.
Good man.
So,
Yes.
at a young age, I had a Power Wheels Jeep, and my dad, who he's brilliant, he started modifying this Power Wheels Jeep. And that's
awesome.
where everything started.
Was Tim Taylor your dad? More
Pretty
power?
much, dude. Like, awesome guy. But, so it all started with a Power Wheels Jeep. Then at age 5, my uncle gave me a single-seat go-kart with a 3.5 Tecumseh motor on it. Motor off of a tiller.
I'm more hung up on the fact that he remembered that.
Dude, it was life-changing. Like, so I got that go-kart, and then my parents live in town, but we had almost an acre yard. And so I made a circle track, and every day after school, I would get home and run around that circle track. And finally, that 3.5 wasn't quick enough. So started mowing lawns at like age 7 and saved up money. And I'll never forget, it was my first eBay purchase. My parents got me, I gave them the money, and they ordered a Briggs & Stratton Fun Power 5-horse Briggs. And put that on there, and I'll never forget every day after school, because shipping took so long back then.
Yeah.
Just coming home and hoping it was going to be there.
Back when patience was a thing, right?
Oh, man. It was awful. I'm so spoiled with Prime. But so I remember came home, the motor was there one day, and it was instant in the garage. Like, me and my dad put this thing on. And I'll never forget, Dad pulled it. I was in the seat. He had sprayed some WD-40 on the garage floor just to make my experience even more cooler of having this brand new motor on this go-kart. And I just put the pedal to the floor, and it smoked the tires. As a kid, it probably really didn't smoke the tires, but it just was awesome. And I was definitely
first
hooked.
startup, floor it instantly.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You can't do it any other way.
Yeah. And then after that, like, we took the governor off of it, and it just kept getting quicker and quicker and quicker. And then finally, I had acquired a 185S Honda 3-wheeler, and it had a 5-speed manual automatic transmission. And me and my uncle put that on that go-kart, and it was obnoxious. Like, it was terrifying. Like,
that had to have been stupid fast.
Oh my gosh, it was crazy, and it was all torque. Like, first and second gear was useless. But we had set up a linkage to where we had almost like a suicide shifter on the side.
Okay.
That's rad.
And I'll show you guys pictures of it too. But yeah, all that small stuff like lawnmowers. I was into lifting lawnmowers, racing lawnmowers. Anything with a motor was what my childhood consisted of. I had no interest in any toys unless it was like RC stuff or anything with a motor.
That's it.
And that was it. And then I used to do like engineering, like science project competitions for this small school that I went to. And then we would go to like state. And so I would always win like these engineering competitions. And so after I graduated high school, I decided I was going to become a mechanical engineer because I could build literally just about anything.
Yeah.
And then, so as my parents would say, that was a $52,000 mistake because I got 1 credit hour. And so I was like, yeah, as far as like the mathematics behind engineering, I'm just not good.
It takes time to learn that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of...
And I think there's something genetic to it. Like, your brain kind of like clicks with that type of stuff where I think it just doesn't.
Right. And so then I was like, you know what? I want to work on cars. So I got my associate's degree in automotive technology through Rankin. After that, instantly started wrenching with Lexus down in Springfield, Missouri.
Nice.
Was doing that, decided we were going to move back up into the area, started looking for job opportunities, found the job that I have now, and
that's cool.
Just been doing it ever since.
That's one of the best things about Rankin, though, is that no matter how many years after you graduate, they're always willing to help.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
yeah.
You have forever job placement whenever you graduate from
That's
there.
their biggest thing. And, like, if someone sees that you went to Rankin for automotive technology, it's pretty much like saying you went to Harvard, like, for law.
Yeah, around here it is. So we have the same degree.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
So how does that work with your job now? Like, so you were kind of explaining it earlier. What exactly do you do now?
So I deal with, like I said, tire changers, balancers, stuff like that. The company that I work with, we have like the leading in everything.
So the infrastructure for a garage.
Yes.
for a shop.
Yes.
All the infrastructure, all the parts that you need, the lifts and all the mechanical parts of that.
If it's the company I'm thinking of, they had what might have been next to Ford, literally the biggest booth at SEMA.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was a
150%.
full-blown shop.
It's
Yeah.
100%
Within
what you're
SEMA.
thinking of.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just the technology is crazy. And so with that, I had to be skilled with pneumatics, hydraulics, computers, data acquisition. You know, it was literally just taking everything that has ever interested me in life and then finding a career that I get to use all of it.
Right.
So you love your job then?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like it is, they say, what's the saying? If you enjoy what you do, you never work a day in your life.
Exactly. 100%.
Yeah, like,
Which the irony, like the statement's totally true. The irony of that is, if you love what you do, you actually technically work twice as much as anybody else that you've ever met. Because most people hate their jobs.
Yeah.
So as soon as it hits 40 hours, they're out of the office and never thinking about it
Oh, yeah,
again.
they're on a countdown
And,
clock
like,
the entire week.
Everyone's sitting at this table for the most part. We love what we do, so it's like you're
Yeah.
kind of never not thinking about work. Almost. I mean,
right. And especially when you work in the industry. I know you guys have talked about this in the past, but
Right.
like,
We appreciate you listening to the show, too.
oh, dude, it's a blast. Because especially with you guys releasing on Mondays, like, I drive so much for what I do. And it's just like every Monday, it's like, awesome. That gives me something to like.
You were
listen
talking about that. I feel like a little bitch for, whining about driving to Illinois every day now. You're talking about 100,000 miles a year driving. I was at maybe like 50, I want to say.
So my territory is huge. I go all the way up to the Iowa border, and then I go over into like just outside of Springfield, Illinois.
seriously.
Wow.
But you're home at night, right? Without getting too personal.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not gone a week at a time for the most part.
No,
right?
no. I'm home every night. There's an occasional where I'll just get like a hotel if I have like a couple jobs lined up, like where it's like three hours away from home, just 'cause it makes sense. But yeah.
That's cool. Now you were kind of explaining. I mean, I'm sure we could talk about probably anything that you've done for an hour by itself. So
easily.
You were telling me about the car that you drive now, which is I don't even remember what it is exactly.
It's a 2017 Infiniti Q50 with the 3.0 liter twin turbo.
Which you were explaining to me, and I didn't realize this, and I'm sure we're not Infinity experts. We're not experts in much, really. That engine shares lineage with the GTR motor, which I had no idea.
Yeah. So a GTR is a VR38DDTT. That's the engine code.
I'm so happy you know that because I have no idea.
Now you started asking me about American muscle stuff. I'm not going to know hardly anything.
See, we need a more tuner guy.
That's the yin and yang.
Yeah.
You're the yang to our yin.
Like, I appreciate it, and it definitely has made the automotive industry what it is today, like the old school American muscle. And let me get back on track. So, yeah, rabbit trails.
No, sidetrack is what the show is. Don't
Yeah.
worry.
So, yeah, my car has what is a VR30 DDTT. So, it's a 3.0 instead of a 3.8.
Okay. Is that direct injection twin
Yes.
turbo? Is that what that kind of means?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, when did that take over? Because they're still in the 370Zs, and this is not something we talk about often. In the 370Z, because that car is a million years old at this
Right.
point,
Yeah.
is still using the 3.7 liter VQ engine, which used to carry over to the Infiniti models, the G35, G37.
Right.
When did they start putting this engine in the Infinitis? Because you have correct me if I'm wrong, you have the equivalent of what a G37 was.
Right.
Okay.
So in 2016 is when they got rid of the 3.7 in the Q50s, and they started putting you can get it with either a 3.5 hybrid, a 2.0 turbo, which is a 4-cylinder, or the 3.0 twin turbo.
So what kind of power rating does that thing make?
So they have a couple different trim levels. Like the big boy is going to be the Red Sport, which is 400 horse to the wheel, 400 foot-pounds of torque. It's the same block as what my car has from the factory, which is the premium trim model is what it's called. And it has a 300 horse, 300 foot-pounds of torque from the factory. But just with, a tune, you can get to the 400 horse.
Yeah.
As the other ones.
Oh, wow.
It seems like all turbo motors, 2013, 15 and newer, are a 30% increase in power with a tune and downpipes.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean,
Absolutely.
The intake and exhaust really are kind of, you let it breathe cleaner, faster,
Yeah.
and let it get it out better, and
Yep.
then make some adjustments to fuel air mixture, and you're done.
it kind of reminds me of like a way different version of back in the day when GM was selling all those big 454s and they made like 220 horsepower, and if
Yep.
you
Right.
disassembled the thing and put in higher compression and
Yeah.
a new
Better
cam and
car.
the heads, and all of a sudden this block, which had great potential but was running like dog shit, now
Yeah.
it's making 450 crank horsepower,
Yeah.
but you had to disassemble the motor.
It's the exact
Now
same
you're-
thing. It's
now
just
you're
with the
a
computer.
laptop away from
Yeah.
a 30-40% jump, and that's crazy to me.
Absolutely.
Now you drive that every day to work. That's your.
No, I drive my 2016 Ford Transit every day. I let my wife drive the Infinity.
Now is that a work vehicle, the Ford Transit, or is that your?
It's my. I bought it.
Your
So,
business bought
yeah,
it probably.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So that's what I do a lot of window time in. So yeah, we have. I don't even know how many cars we got now. We have the Ford Transit, the Infiniti Q50, 2017 Mazda CX-5, which that was what I originally got for my wife.
And I've heard nothing but good things about that.
Oh, dude, it is so great. I was looking at getting a Lexus NX200T, and then I kind of had to buy her a new vehicle because I popped the motor in her old vehicle because I was running a kill tune that was supposed to be strictly for the track for about a year and a half.
Oh, wow.
And so finally, that little 1.4 Chevy motor said enough was enough, and
It went chick, chick, ticky, boom.
yeah.
Now, when it went, how did it go? Was it glorious or just kind of?
It was disappointing. Like
Yeah.
I was literally
It's
leaving.
like every other Chevy Cruze.
We're gonna start a fight.
He doesn't like them things, but
If you thought you liked me before, you won't like me after a Chevy Cruze
No,
conversation.
dude, that's what I love so much about the automotive industry. Everyone has different opinions. Everyone likes different stuff.
Yeah.
And if you think about it and you like kind of put it over into the food industry, if everyone liked the same food, life would be so boring. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
Oh, totally.
Definitely.
that's the best comparison I've heard in, like, ever.
And the thing about it is, like, if you look back, like I love dogging on like Honda Civics and stuff like that because I mean they're so easy to pick on.
It's
but
easy.
Yeah.
but at the same time they're so impressive and like so many like very important people in the automotive performance industry started off with Honda Civics and just like
Yeah.
cheap little cars.
CRX.
They're kind of the
all that
Chevy
kind of stuff.
version of import
Yeah.
because they're everywhere. They're easy to buy parts for. They're easy.
cheap.
They're the easiest to work on.
Yeah.
Just like a Chevy small block is.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I want to go back to this gambler thing because when you do it, do you trailer your vehicle down to Arkansas? Where do you stay? Who goes with you? How many people? What's
the logistics
Because I think
of
people
it?
that are listening are also kind of wondering, is this something I want to get into? I want to know more about it before I get into it because it sounds really awesome.
So I don't drive my vehicle down there. I trailer it because when I'm out there, I don't want to think about the fact that, oh man, this thing's got to get me back to Missouri.
Yeah.
Like I want to give it, full send the whole time. Like
Sure.
so yeah, I trailer it down there. We have the Turner Bend campground is where we all stay both nights. And you can stay in tents there. Like no one really stays in hotels that I know of. This last year I just slept in the cab of the truck and it's just me and my buddy. It changes each year who I take with me. And yeah, like this last year, I took my buddy Drew, who is the like funnest person to take to one of these events. Like he does Civil War reenactments.
That's
I like 'em
badass.
already.
So
Yep.
so like when it came to like camping and just like all the like how are we going to stay warm, how are we going to do this stuff, he has like this bag with like this ancient like poncho and like blanket and just like all the stuff that he uses whenever he's out doing these week-long Civil War reenactments. So yeah, I mean I take really whoever shows interest. And the thing about it is with the Fiero is you can only have one other person with you.
Yeah.
So that's the only downside. But, it just really depends.
What time of year is it? I mean, is it in the
I
spring, the
think
fall?
this next one, and I have so many dates that go on in my head, I can never keep track. I think the next one for the Arkansas is going to be in October.
Oh, cool.
Now, there is a Missouri one.
Wasn't last year the first year?
Yes, last
Okay.
year was the first year, and I didn't get to go to that. I went to it, but I didn't have the car ready in time. And yeah, that's the Gambler 500 in Missouri, and I'm gonna do that one this year. They're doing something, I can't remember what it is, with the 100-acre woods.
Okay.
I think they're gonna be working it as well as maybe running it after the event. I don't know.
Okay.
I'll have to look into that, but Facebook is your best friend when it comes to any of these events. You can pretty much punch in Gambler and you'll find so much stuff no matter where you're at.
That's awesome. No, that's legit.
I want to do that. I really want to do that.
Yeah.
badly.
I recommend anyone that is into cars do it, just because it's as expensive as you wanted to make it, but it's typically the people that spend the least amount of money have the most fun.
Right. It's a lot like it. What you're talking about reminds me a lot of the mud fest that we used to have around here.
Yeah.
At Buchanan's. And you would take basically whatever piece of crap that you could dig out of your yard or wherever you found it and take it out there. And if you blew it up, you blew it up. Nobody cared.
Well, and we talk about it. We've talked about it all the time because
Yeah.
over the years, I had a WSX Trans Am at one point. He has the Challenger and the Charger and like 6 other vehicles.
Yeah.
You had your C10. The limit, like in a weird way, the limit of how much fun you can have with the car is how much you care about it, right?
100%. Yeah.
So like with this, with the Lemons, with this, or with I'm sure there's other events that are similar. Like the reason we get the deer in the headlight look is it's like, well, you don't have to care about the car. There's really no rules,
Right.
and it's not like every other form of racing where if you're not pulling in high 6 figures, you can basically forget it.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so fun because, with anything else, it's about what you have.
Yeah, it's about
Yeah.
money and time. It's about money
Exactly.
and everything like that. Or it just becomes way too competitive and it takes the fun and spirit out of it.
Yeah. And it's like, you get the Gambler event where someone rolls up with a PT Cruiser with like 31-inch tires on it.
Yes.
And you're like, any other time I would absolutely hate a PT Cruiser, but this is awesome.
Yeah.
Like,
in the context
good
of
job.
Yeah.
you're gonna send it perfect.
yeah.
Right,
Perfect.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the most common thing that you see out there?
As far as vehicle-wise,
Yeah, is there
Yeah.
like a theme? That's a good question.
Yeah.
all the vehicles are done up different. You have this team called the Beerbulance. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Beerbulance.
Beerbulance, and
We'll spell it later.
and all they do is go around and give people beer, and it's just it looks like a 40
Maybe
kind of line.
So what you
To
just
quote the Blues Brothers, they're on a mission from God.
Exactly, exactly. Everyone at the events, if I could sum up the event with 2 people, it would be Burt Reynolds and Kenny Rogers, the Gambler.
All right, we're going. That's it.
Eric
We're
just
done.
left, actually.
Yeah.
You can still hear his voice, but he's gone.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different people from different walks of life.
Yeah.
It's cool.
That'd be so cool just to meet some of these people because you never know what they do too. Like,
Yeah.
you could meet a doctor that does this just for fun
yeah.
because he can, or whatever.
It kind of, it there's a million different like comparisons that you could make, but it makes me think about like the difference between like going to see your favorite artist. Like there's a famous country artist in town that literally everyone I've ever met is going to see tonight.
Yeah.
And like with like NASCAR, with Formula One, with Formula Drift, they're all great events and like absolutely attend if you ever get the chance. But you're so removed from the action. Like that's one thing. And then if you ever get the chance to like meet the driver, to be in the pits, to see the one-on-one, to like get your hands on, like that's what I like about this event is like from the sound of it, you're immersed, you're in it, you're part of it, and you're not sitting back because you could spend, I'm sure, just as much money as it would cost to actually do a Gambler, to go to a race, to go to a
100%.
Oh, yeah.
Except
whatever.
this time you get to participate, and
Yeah.
this time you actually get to build it, which I think would be awesome.
And I can guarantee, I don't care what race you go to,
Yeah.
the memories you'll build from something like this. I mean, no comparison.
They're just as good as anything else.
If not even,
if not better.
way
And,
better. Yeah.
And there's no tech to have to pass.
No,
you know
that's
what I mean?
the better part too. Is you don't have to worry about any. There's no rules. You don't have
Yeah.
to worry about it.
Absolutely.
That's
Basically,
awesome.
you just got to worry about getting pulled over because your tire's doing,
I've never been pulled over.
So what's the plan? What's upcoming for the next couple of years? Do you have like a game plan in mind?
I got a 68 millimeter turbo that's going on that 3400.
Oh, yes. That's going to
So,
be glorious when it blows
We're-
up.
Yeah.
Now, those 3800s, because I had a GTP.
34.
34.
Well, I'm just saying
He's
those
talking-
would take some boost even above like what the factory would. So
Yeah.
was 3400 the
Yeah.
same as what it takes?
Essentially, they're
Will it take
both
some send?
It's a-
60-degree blocks.
Okay.
It's the 3.1 liter with the 3.4 liter heads basically on
Yeah.
it, and then it turns into a 3.4 liter, and it's got all these confusing little
The
systems.
level
in it.
of obscure GM knowledge
The
sitting right here.
was the 3.1 with the 3.8 heads. You said
Something.
3.4 heads.
See, and that's
3.8 heads.
I said 3.8 heads.
You said 3.4.
I'm no
Whatever.
expert.
The audio
Either way.
Whatever.
I'm no expert at any of it. I just throw shit at it until it works. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
So we're gonna go like full E85, or what are we doing here?
I thought about going E85. My issue is when you're out in the middle of nowhere, no one has E85.
True.
So
That's a good point.
then I'm trying to pack a bunch of fuel, and then there's
Weight.
extra
That's a
weight.
hassle.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
So how much pressure are you gonna send this 3400 series?
Enough. That's
You'll find the
And you
breaking
still have that
point.
Muncie 4-speed, huh?
oh yeah, yeah. That 4-speed. I mean,
I like that.
it's geared so low. Like there are people who have seen this car lift the front wheels a quarter inch off the ground.
That's wild. So
Just-
is it an M21? Is that what it is?
I have no clue. I just
Oh, okay.
It's gonna, what's gonna happen? He's gonna throw 14 pounds of boost at it. It's gonna make 340 crank horsepower, and it's not gonna break for the next 10 years. That's
Yeah.
how it's gonna work.
yeah.
That probably is how it's going to work.
If you JB weld the whole thing together, it'll be fine.
Oh yeah, yeah. We'll
Yeah,
take
just-
all the coolant journals and just fill them
Just put some
for.
JB weld around the heads. They'll
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
lift. It'll be fine.
Okay, Eric, we need a Chevy Lumina with the 3.1 or the 3.8. Well, they
I
have
was
the 3.8
gonna,
in
No.
or one of the
they-
Mighty Car. Yeah, no, it was
Not
the
an Illumina.
It was the 3.1 or the 3.4.
And we painted Dale Earnhart black with the 3 on it.
Oh my God, we're
Hell yeah.
we're
Put it
fucking
on,
doing
Put
this.
it on 31s, and,
And
we're
then-
going
And
to
you
be
get
there.
on Amazon and you buy a 3-foot tall plastic bald eagle and you JB weld it to the roof.
No,
Absolutely.
better. On the back, it just says "Do it for Dale."
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And
That's why we
and
do it all.
Yeah, that's why the show even exists because we're doing it for Dale.
I would recommend getting something rear wheel drive though, because
Really?
you can. Oh yeah, gravel roads, man. You can just be full lock going
True.
around.
That is true.
So, do you go through any substantial mud holes? So, I mean, something that a Jeep would have issues going through, or is it pretty
If you want to, like it's kind of one of those things where
as
like
adventurous as you want to be?
yeah,
you can be?
and
Okay.
you'll be like going down a trail and you'll just see people off on the side of the road drinking beer and you'll just
Crown
pull
Victoria.
over and dude, that was a
Yeah.
vehicle that I wanted to do.
Crown Vic or a Caprice.
Yeah.
I wanted to take a Crown Vic and I wanted to swap a 5-speed trans out of a Mustang in it.
Ooh,
And then
I love the way your freaking brain works.
yeah, and just go to town with it. Like
It's also a lazy boy for the trail.
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
if you
yeah.
want,
I mean, a car like that is a
and you
lazy
can put
boy.
That's
you can
body
put
on frame,
4 or
isn't it?
5 friends in it
yeah,
and
Oh,
just
get it. Get
have
a
a
little-
hell of a
get a
huge
little Grand Marquis.
trunk.
And the
Caprice
trunk.
wagon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sold.
Yeah.
Done. Or an old. I was thinking Grand Marquis. You would have luxury, and you can send it at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's legit. All right.
And
so,
they're all $500 pieces of shit, so,
so
nobody
bel-
cares.
Believe it or not, we're not quite an hour. We are coming up on an hour. Now, we talked earlier this week about how we used to ask every guest 10 questions.
Uh-oh.
And this
Oh,
is not
boy.
the end of the show. We can keep going. But before I forget, this is a one-word answer, just first thing that pops to your brain, and no judgment, except everyone that's listening is going to kind of judge you. All right.
We will
So,
too.
yeah, absolutely. We'll make fun of you.
Yeah.
10 questions, starting with number 1 here. Turbocharged or supercharged?
Turbocharged.
Lifted or lowered?
Lowered.
Import or domestic?
Import.
Build or buy?
Build.
Yes.
Gas truck or diesel truck?
Diesel truck. If you're using it for the purpose of a truck.
Okay.
We just became best friends.
New or classic?
That's tough because it depends on what you're wanting to do.
Choose
Like
your side.
I would say new.
Okay. That's the tricky part. Is like you
There's
There-
so many
there's
caveats to
yeah,
it,
you're
but
like,
you
different
can't-
variables.
You can't go down the rabbit hole. It's this or this. That's it. Quick decisions.
This one I don't think we even have to ask. And
I feel like I'm on Family Feud right now. Like,
That's right.
I'm
Steve
so.
Harvey.
I wish I had Steve Harvey teeth so I could sit here like.
dude,
That would be awesome.
All right, number 7, race car, show car.
Race car.
That's easy. Dirt or pavement?
Pavement.
Auto, manual.
Manual.
Qdoba or Chipotle?
Ooh. Qdoba.
Nice. All right.
Yeah.
There's no correct answers, but you answered correctly.
Yeah. You just won.
I was like, because there's another show that used to exist that doesn't do it anymore, and they would ask like way dirtier questions, like they would mix them in there. And like a couple years ago, maybe, but we're trying to make the show like more about cars and less about how gross we are. So
Right.
this is the new version of these questions. Right on, man. I mean, the Gambler sounds amazing, and like I'm so glad that we're seeing, and in my position, luckily, I'm learning more and more about all these events that are popping up across the country. But the barrier to entry to really get involved in motorsports is like so low, and like it's still something you have to consider because it's not a free thing to do. There's a lot of considerations, but I'm just glad as a fan to see this happening because, with electric cars coming in and hybrids and, we don't know what's going to happen with fossil fuel in the next 10, 15 years. We need every reason to like bring people into this thing that we're doing and like keep it going. And so it's just cool to see. And it's cool to talk to somebody that's like done it and been invested in it. And like,
And they gave us koozies with their team name on it.
I'm debating though, because this sticker's so badass. I don't know if it goes on the table or my car.
I mean, I can give you 2. I'll have Taylor bring one to work.
Ooh,
that's
a good idea.
the thing.
I don't want to get greedy, but
we have options, my friend.
Okay.
Stickers are meant to be used,
That's
not
true.
framed.
That's awesome. Any final thoughts, questions? I mean, if you're cool with it, this is definitely not going to be your only episode.
No, he's got to come back because
Dude,
now that I know a
always
little
down.
bit about this is our first meeting. I've never met him before, so I was just kind of listening to kind of get a feel for like what you're into and everything. And he's got to come back.
Well, and that's the hard part about having somebody that's got like stories to tell and like done cool stuff because as a car guy, I just want to sit here and like listen and like as a podcast host, we're all trying to
you
like
got to sit there,
stay present because I'm just off in my head picturing us buying a Grand Marquis and mobbing in the dirt.
When we get guys that know like tech specs, which is awesome. It just brings in a whole different conversation that I can start talking to people about. And
a lot of that stuff you can't really teach.
No.
A lot of it either you know it or you don't. You can learn it, but it's if you don't know it by now, you probably
It's
won't.
accumulation over decades.
It is.
Yeah.
And I like that everybody's different. Everybody has their own thing.
That's what makes everything
Exactly.
interesting.
Yeah, you're more of an import guy. We're kind of the domestic guys, and that's the yin and yang. A little bit. That's the yin and yang. So I mean, that's the whole point of this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say it was great having you on. I can't freaking wait to have you back on.
Dude, I love it.
Super pumped.
So happy to be here.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming. I don't think the drive was that bad. We'll talk about it off the air. No one needs to know where you live.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. This has been episode 115 of the Blown Smoke Podcast. If you want to find me on Instagram, you totally can. Feel free to creep. I am Big Fast Jake. Feel free to plug your Instagram or the car's Instagram, whatever you want. I mean, anything you want to plug.
Yeah, the car's Instagram is Team Whistling and Dixie. And my personal Instagram is Nick STL, which I can't believe was still available. So
Yeah.
That's
How did you land that?
When did you get that Instagram handle?
like 2 weeks ago because
No shit. That
I
was
had
still.
yeah.
That's wild. So, Joe, you want to plug your social this week, or
I don't know.
Nah, that's a no.
that's a no?
That's
Okay.
fine. You'll get him next week.
Yep. Well, I am the Captain of Cars on Instagram, and if you want to do the most important thing is follow us on Instagram, like us on Facebook, leave a review, go follow Nick because he's a pretty cool guy, and we'll catch you guys next week.
Bye.
Bikes.